Hello everyone. Let's move further in discussion of Hawthorne. Hawthorne, in his personal life, for his financial adjustment, struggled a lot. After his marriage, even for the sake of children, he had to worked as a surveyor at the Salem Custom House. So in 46, from 1846 to 1849, he worked as a surveyor, surveyor, surveyor at the Salem Custom House. As we discussed about the Scarlet Letter in our previous video, except Scarlet Letter, some other works which are also famous are The House of the Seven Gables. The House of the Seven Gables. This is a novel actually, and when you talk of in the words of Hawthorne, it's a romance. So The House of the Seven Gables, and there is the other one, that is the Blethersdale Romance. The Blethersdale Romance, Blethersdale Romance, Blethersdale Romance. Other than these three, means Scarlet Letter, The House of the Seven Gables, the Blethersdale Romance, in the last period he wrote one more. We'll discuss about it. Except these things, he wrote 4 volumes of short stories, and one interesting thing that he did, that the writers sometimes need to do for their economic establishment. He wrote a biography of Franklin Pierce. You know Franklin Pierce, he became president in 1852. So when he was contesting election from the Democratic Party, this person, Franklin Pierce, actually he was a friend of Hawthorne in his days of schooling. So for Franklin Pierce, he wrote a biography. It was a kind of effort for making well reputation of that candidate. And ultimately, Franklin Pierce, when he became the president of the United States of America, he rewarded him with a post, and that post name is American Consul, CONSUL. Don't be confused as council or something like that. Consul, CONSUL, at Liverpool, England. But unfortunately, when in 1856 Franklin Pierce lost his election, he did not remain president anymore. Hawthorne also had to lose his position as consul. So after losing that post, Hawthorne sojourned in Paris, Italy and England. You know the correct French pronunciation of Paris? That is not actually Paris. Englishmen say it as Paris, but the correct French pronunciation is Paris, the capital city of France. So in Italy, that the more one of the most famous works, except the Scarlet Letter and others, we have by Hawthorne, another romance. The name of that is The Marble Faun. The Marble, M-A-R-B-L-E, Marble Faun, F-A-U-N. A very interesting thing that I found while reading Hawthorne's biography, he knew 3 19th century romantic authors personally, and they are very famous, like Hawthorne, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Thoreau, Thoreau, then Herman Melville, Herman Melville, Herman Melville. See, these 3 great romantics of 19th century were acquainted with Hawthorne. But when we talk of the ideology, the ideas, the thinking, the way of thinking, in that manner, Herman Melville and Hawthorne used to think in similar manner. But Emerson and Thoreau, they had different approach. See, Emerson and Thoreau believed in the perfectibility of man. In their works, they called for a sweeping away of the flaws and corruptions of society, and they urged man to rely on his own intuitive self and to fulfill himself in natural harmony with the universe and with other men. Listen carefully. Emerson and Thoreau believed in the perfectibility of man. Means they used to think that the man should attempt for getting perfectibility. In their works, they called for a sweeping away of the flaws and corruptions of society. Means they wanted perfectness, and for that they demanded that flaws and corruptions of society should be removed. The man should work on it. They urged man to rely on his own intuitive self. See, when we talk of intuitive self, it is said that it is something which guides us very perfectly, and it hinders us doing any mistake or doing any sin in our life, and to fulfill himself in a natural harmony with the universe and with other men. See, so as we know, when we talk of Emerson, we read the poem by Emerson, Each and All, and there he says that how an individual is very much connected with the everything, means he has responsibility towards the universe. So they used to think that an individual has accountability for the society, for the universe. But when you talk of Hawthorne and Melville, on the other hand, believed in the innate depravity of man. What is this? That is, they believed that man is inherently flawed and his life doomed to be a tragic struggle between the good and the evil in him. See, another approach. Herman Melville and Hawthorne, they believed that man is inherently flawed, means it is very natural that man is flawed, man has flaw in him, and he says his life doomed to be, means it's predestined, it's very clear from the beginning. It's his life doomed to be a tragic struggle, within quote you can say, no, not in quote, doomed to be a tragic struggle between the good and the evil. See, this assumption we also have, that we always have to struggle in between good and evil, that is there, that is 2 fractions of our own brain, good and the evil in him and in the society which is his creation. So he says that it's very clear from the beginning. The man has to struggle because he is flawed. So his inclination always goes towards evil, not towards goodness. Any other view they considered wishful, superficial, or both. See, this is wrong actually. One should not think like this. What do they say? What do they believe? Any other view they considered wishful, superficial, or both. So the way you are thinking, only that way is correct? Of course not. Man is a thinking being, so different people think differently. It doesn't mean that if you are an intellectual, you are thinking in a manner, so you should think that only your thinking is in right direction. Of course not. I always tell to my students that being the student of literature, we should develop this kind of understanding that diversity is there, and we should accept diversity even if we don't appreciate intellectually. But we should understand that different views can be there regarding anything. So as you have known that Melville and Hawthorne used to think differently in comparison to the other romantics like Emerson and Thoreau. So see, what does Hawthorne say about Emerson? And I quote, "Mr. Emerson is a great searcher for facts." Very good thing. Mr. Emerson is a great searcher of facts, but they seem to melt away and become insubstantial in his grasp. Means he wants to search, sometimes he gets also, but it does not fit into his grasp. It melts away, that he says. Means he is unable to grasp them. He wants to search, but he is unable to grasp. This is what Hawthorne thinks of Emerson. Again, he says Emerson is a, within quote, mystic stretching his hand out of cloudland. You know, when he considers him mystic is a very beautiful word, and it's very interesting to know that mystics, they are far superior to philosophers. Once someone asked to St. Augustine that what is the difference between a philosopher and a mystic. Then he said that philosopher knows about God, but mystic knows God. So knowing about a person and knowing a person is very different kind of thing. When you know about a person, you have just some pieces of information regarding him or her. But when you know the person, you know him or her personally. So mystic are much connected, more connected with God. They are nearer to God. So mystic, he says, Emerson is a mystic stretching his hand out of cloudland in a vain search for something real. So in cloudland, as if different kind of things that we perceive in cloud. Sometimes we find some rabbit there, sometimes we find some child there, and actually those things are not there in the cloud. Those are just the result of our own brain, our own imagination. So he says that in cloudland, how can you find something real? As if when we talk of an Indian scenario, जब सब कुछ माया है तो फिर किस बात का भरोसा करना? He says, Emerson is a mystic stretching his hand out of cloudland in vain search for something real. The heart of many an ordinary man, inscriptions which Emerson could not read. So means this is the view that is had by Hawthorne, that the heart of many an ordinary man, inscriptions which could not read, means Emerson could not read, means as he thinks that Emerson is unable to read the inscriptions, the letters, the words, those are inscribed there in the hearts of ordinary man. For Hawthorne and Melville, an awareness of evil is essential to maturity. See, they were more attentive towards this, that evil, knowing evil is essential to maturity. Of course, one cannot deny the awareness of evil, because see, when we talk of the personality of a human being, one cannot deny that this good and evil are there within our own personality. They are two different ego and alter egos of the same person. So one should be aware regarding this, and only then one can be matured. And that's why there in the novel The Marble Faun, there is a character named Kenyon, Kenyon, Kenyon. He asks, listen carefully, what does he ask? Is sin then sorrow an element of human education? So sin, sorrow, see, negative aspects. Sin, sorrow, an element of human education through which we struggle to a higher and purer state than we could otherwise have attained. Means through Kenyon. Kenyon is a mouthpiece here. Kenyon is a mouthpiece of Hawthorne, and through Kenyon he puts a question. It's a kind of rhetorical question, you can say, because he is not actually questioning, he is actually telling. Is sin then sorrow an element of human education? Means sin and sorrow are very much necessary, and they are there, and they are there for purifying us. They are there for educating us, through which we struggle to a higher and purer state. Of course, when we face sorrow, then we become more purified. Purgation takes place, and we attain more maturity, more humanity, more kind-heartedness. So he says that otherwise we are unable to get something like them that we get through their experience, the experience of sin and sorrow. Melville and Hawthorne, they developed very good friendship. They used to read each other's works, and they used to appreciate it a lot. Melville talked about Hawthorne. He sensed it, and I quote a phrase, a touch of puritanic gloom. That he thought that puritanic gloom is very much visible there. That touch of puritanic gloom is there in Hawthorne's works. For Melville, no story better illustrated the power of blackness. Power of blackness. Again, that negativity, that negative aspect in human personality. He says, no story better illustrated the power of blackness than Young Goodman Brown. This is a short story by Hawthorne, which he considered the finest of Hawthorne's tales. Tales again, tale is the word used by Hawthorne for his short story. As deep as Dante. See, Dante, who is famous for his epic Divine Comedy, and there we find three sections: Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso. Inferno, the depiction of hell, the darkness, the negativity. So he compares a short story to an epic. He says that no story better illustrated the power of blackness than Young Goodman Brown. As deep as Dante. See, these great writers, they had different approaches, different views, but something was there that was very much common in them. In these writers like Emerson, Thoreau, Hawthorne, Melville, they believed that the best source of wisdom is not reason but supra-rational faculties. Means something beyond reason, something greater than reason, that is called supra-rational faculty. As we have in psychology, cognition and metacognition. So they are, talking of metacognition. They say that best source of wisdom is not reason but supra-rational faculties. And what are supra-rational faculties? Intuition, something which is inbuilt in us. Intuition, something which we get from the beginning, from the birth. Intuition, the heart, moral vision. So these are supra-rational faculties according to them, and they thought that these supra-rational faculties are the best source of wisdom, and for that humans must follow them, not just the brain. Okay, thank you.